Hey, hi, hello, welcome or welcome back to the channel. My name is Amy and I am so stoked to have you here. I have one piece of admin, an announcement, if you will, and that announcement is the more astute of you would have known and noticed that I am not the most consistent human being on the internet, and I have been beating myself up about this fact for the longest time. And I think it's really silly. I had a big think about it, and I'm being really silly. I realized that there is no performance review. There are no KPIs, and this is just a fun little thing that I get to do in my free time. And so, in order to be more consistent, I think I'm going to give myself some leniency and do an every second week upload situation. I am hoping that this gives me more time to make things that I like more. It gives me more time to actually finish stuff, which is cool, and hopefully, it is just a better experience all around. So that is the schedule, that is the update. John and I had a very bookish weekend, and I would love to take you along and show you what went down. We have this big chain bookstore, and once a year they have a warehouse sale, which is essentially where they take the stock from all of their different branches, all the stuff that didn't sell particularly well, and they put it in one place, and you get it for a severely discounted price. So I invite you to sit down, grab a snack, grab a drink, whatever makes you feel comfy, whatever makes you feel cozy, and let's get into it. We meet again. We are back from the big book sale, and I have some loot that I would like to share with you. But before I do, I just want to run through what the sale was like. So the sale was actually a lot busier than we thought it was going to be. There were tables amongst tables amongst tables of books. And I think initially they had a sorting system where they went through the books or sorted the books by genre, but by the time we got there, which was 2 days after the sale had officially started, everything was just a mess, just a mix of genres, and you really had to sift through everything to find stuff. Having said that, we found some goodies. I think we have 13 books to talk about. Everything was severely discounted, so we didn't do too much damage to the financials. We budgeted for this, which feels pretty cool. I hauled a lot of non-fiction, which is strange because I don't tend to gravitate towards non-fiction. I try to be reading at least one non-fiction at a time, but I read them far slower than regular fiction. So anyway, let me just tell you what I got. Starting off with Holding the Line, Women in the Great Arizona Mine Strike by Barbara Kingsolver. Barbara Kingsolver is the author of The Poisonwood Bible and Damon Copperhead, and this one is a non-fiction. I'm not entirely sure if she's written any other non-fictions. I learned that Barbara Kingsolver was actually a journalist before she became a writer. So this follows the 1983 Phelps Dodge copper mine strike in Arizona, and initially Barbara Kingsolver was sent to cover up the strike, and after spending some time there and actually talking to the women on the front lines, she decided to expose it instead, which I think is a choice. So this has been described as part oral history, part social commentary, and I'm very excited to delve into it. Next up, I got a collection of essays called The World Ending Fire by Wendell Berry. I have never read anything by Wendell Berry. I was immediately drawn in by the blurb, which says that he is one of America's most powerful radical voices. So Wendell Berry is a farmer in Kentucky, and this is an essay collection that deals with why we should be preserving our natural landscapes. It also talks about the ways in which mass production is in direct conflict with natural preservation. And so it's a little environmental read, it's a little nonfiction, an essay collection. And I am really hoping that it reminds me of Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I read that about 2-3 years ago, and I have been looking for naturalist essays / books that feel similar. So if you have any recommendations on that front, please do let me know. But until then, I will let you know how this one goes. Then we have another nonfiction. This one is a memoir. It is called Managing Expectations by Minnie Driver. I love Minnie Driver. She was an actress. I particularly enjoyed her in The Phantom of the Opera, which is one of my favorite musicals, where she plays La Carlotta. And in this one, we talk about Minnie Driver's rise to fame. But beside her acting career, we also talk about her familial relationships. We talk about about the loss of her mother and her experience as being a single parent. I heard that this one is very funny, which I am keen to believe because I think she is a very funny individual, but I've also heard that as funny as it is also tender. We have a quote by Stephen Fry on the top that says, "An absolute jewel of a book, hilarious, painful, acute, sharply recalled, and vivid." We trust Stephen Fry in this house. I am a particular fan of his podcasts. I think they're a lot of fun. So I am very keen to dive into this one. Memoirs are one of my favorite genres. I love reading a memoir, and I historically have not been a fan of celebrity memoirs, but I think if anyone can prove me wrong, it would be Minnie Driver. Then I got Girls of Slender Means by Muriel Spark. I have never read a Muriel Spark before, but I was immediately drawn in by this cover, which is beautiful, but also by the first line, which I think is hilarious. It is set during the war, and it starts like this. Long ago in 1945, all the nice people in England were poor, allowing for exceptions. The streets of the cities were lined with buildings in bad repair or in no repair at all. Bomb sites piled with stony rubble, houses like giant teeth in which decay had been drilled out, leaving only the cavity. Some bomb-ripped buildings looked like the ruins of ancient castles until, at a closer view, the wallpapers of various quite normal rooms would be visible, room above room exposed as on a stage with one wall missing. Sometimes a lavatory chain would dangle over nothing from a 4th or 5th floor ceiling. Most of all the staircases survived, like a new art form, leading up and up to an unspecified destination that made unusual demands on the mind's eye. All the nice people were poor, at least that was the general axiom, the best of the rich being poor in spirit. I love this writing style. I think it is so charming, I think it is so funny, and so I am very excited to see what Muriel Spark has in store for me. Then I got How to Kill Your Family by Bella Mackie. This is the story of a serial killer. The book opens with her in her prison cell, and she is writing out the story of how she has killed 6 members of her family. I started it, as you can see, but I'm not really enjoying the voice anymore. The main character, Grace, is very critical and very cynical. She's very judgmental of other people in a way that I'm just not enjoying. I have, however, heard that this is perfect for people who liked My Sister the Serial Killer, and it reminds me personally of A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. Then I picked up The Water Cure by Sophie McIntosh. This was blurbed by Margaret Atwood via Twitter, apparently. And I am a big lover of Margaret Atwood, and so I hope I will enjoy this. This is about 3 girls who are raised on an island. They believe that the water around the island is contaminated, the contamination being men, and when 3 men wash upon the shore, they have to re-examine their lives, their values, and how they interact with other people. Then I picked up Tanglereck by Jeanette Winterson. This is a middle grade by Winterson. Jeanette Winterson wrote Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, and I laughed, I cried, I thought it was hilarious and moving, and I have been picking up her works ever since. She's really good at weaving fairy tales into her stories, so if that is something you like, check her out. But this one is a middle grade. We follow Silver, who lives with her aunt, Miss Rockabye, and she lives in a world where there are time tornadoes. So these time tornadoes have the ability to suspend you in time or move time forward. She hears stories about the Timekeeper, which is an alchemist's watch, which has the ability to return time to its normal state, but when a villain shows up also in search of the watch, she and a friend have to go on an adventure to find it. The last line reads, "Can Silver and Gabriel survive the tasks ahead and reach the sands of time before anyone else? And if they do, will the Timekeeper still be there?" I am a big believer in reading middle grade fiction. I think that it is so much fun, and I think that it must be so well written because children are full of questions, and I feel like as a middle grade writer, all of those questions need to be answered for your audience to be satisfied, and so I think there is a special kind of skill that goes into writing children's books. Staying on the time travel fuckshittery, I also got Arcadian by Ian Pearce. We follow a professor in Cold War England. He has built up a relationship with this girl who lives nearby called Rosie, and one day when Rosie runs into his attic in search of his cat, she stumbles across a portal that leads her into a new world. This, I believe, follows 3 points of view. We have Rosie, we have another character named Jay, don't really know much about them, and then we have Angela, who is a scientist who's trying to prove that time doesn't exist. And throughout it all, somewhere along the line, these three stories converge and change the outcome of their lives forever. We have a poetry collection. I picked up Slaughterhouse by Melissa Sussens. This is a poetry collection following Melissa's time where she worked a compulsory year in a slaughterhouse. She is a vegetarian, and so it's about innocence, the loss of innocence, and foraging a queer identity. I've heard that this can sustain a lot of rereads, and so I am very excited. The poems seem simple but impactful and powerful. We have The War Against the Angels by Michael Moorcock. This is a bind-up of a trilogy. It is a fantasy trilogy. I believe there is a multiverse involved, and the first one is called Blood, a Southern Fantasy. I was really just hooked by that, and then I came home and I checked the reviews, and there is one whole review on Storygraph, and it is a 1.5 star rating. So I may have made a mistake with this one, but only time will tell. For something more practical, I picked up How to Grow Your Own Poem by Kate Clancy. This is part poetry collection, part instruction manual. In the introduction, Kate Clancy talks about how you can read this book in any order. You can read it back to front, you can read it out of order, and everything makes sense. It is a collection of poems about her experience writing poetry. It is also a bunch of exercises that you can embark on if you wish to write your own poetry. As somewhat of a novice poet myself, I am very much looking to see what kind of exercises Kate Clancy has to offer, but also I think it's really cool that it is written in a poetic form. So very much looking forward to that. In the introduction, Clancy also talks about how she believes writing poetry is a natural form of human expression, such as dance or singing, but how we have kind of repressed our ability to write poetry. And so this is a book that's meant to address that. I also picked up another nonfiction. It is The Great White Bard, How to Love Shakespeare While Talking About Race by Farah Kareem Cooper. This is Cooper's field of expertise. She has her PhD in Shakespeare and Shakespearean works. And in this one, we talk about race, gender, and otherness, and how our new interpretations and new readings of Shakespeare with those lenses can enrich the experience. It is essentially an unveiling of Shakespeare for the 21st century. I wasn't expecting to find this book at the sale, seeing as it is quite new. I picked up Doppelganger by Naomi Klein. This book won the Women's Prize for Nonfiction last year. Naomi Klein is a journalist. She is very renowned. She's written a couple of books on climate change, marketing and branding, and capitalism as a whole. In this one, Naomi Klein talks about her experience of being mistaken for somebody else. She is kind of chronically mistaken for another woman named Naomi who has complete opposite political and social views to her. This is a book about identity but also about technology. The back says, Naomi Klein lifts the lid on our own culture during the surreal moment in history. As we turn ourselves into polished virtual brands, publicly shame our enemies, watch as deepfakes proliferate and whole nations flip from democracy to something more sinister. Lastly, I picked up The Black Angels, The Untold Story of the Nurses Who Cured Tuberculosis by Maria Smilias. This is set in 1929 during a time where tuberculosis is on a rise. This was a time in which tuberculosis was killing 1 in 7 people, and so there was a huge nurse shortage. And the Seaview Municipal Hospital kind of convinced these women to come onto the front lines and fight the disease. These women were promised proper pay, they worked in horrible conditions, and despite playing an active role in desegregating the New York hospital systems, they were completely erased from history. This is their story. And that, friends, is everything we hauled. That's everything I got. Thank you so much for spending this bookish weekend with me. If there is a book that you are interested in me reading first, please do let me know. Let me know if anything has caught your interest. Would you read any of these books? And until then, I'll see you next time. Bye.